what do you feel about the veto power of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council? Do you think it needs to be reformed? And do you think that the way the veto has been used sometimes, it's prevented some action that could have been beneficial to the world?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. But let me start by saying that it was one of the tricky issues when you start looking at the reform of the Security Council. In the proposals I put forward, I suggested additional permanent seats be created, but without veto. And India, for example, said we are either a permanent member or not, and we must have the veto. Ideally, one would want to withdraw the vetoes from the existing permanent members. But they looked after their interest. The charter was done in such a way that you cannot withdraw it without their agreement. And none of them is going to give you the agreement. And some are today super big powers because they are on the council, and you are not going to take that away from them. And so the idea of creating additional permanent members would be to increase representation, which in a way would also make the council more democratic. You know, I'm talking about not being able to withdraw the privileges of the permanent 5. One thing I've learned through my life is there are 2 things when you give to people, it's extremely difficult to withdraw: privileges and subsidies. But we hear a lot about subsidies because it's often the poor who get it. The privileges are with the rich, and we don't hear enough about that. But it is something that is extremely difficult to withdraw, and therefore my approach would be to make it more representative, to have Latin America represented with a permanent seat, Africa with permanent seats, India, probably Japan. Some say Germany should be there, but of course Europe already has 3 permanent seats: Russia, UK, and France. And actually when we were talking reform and the question of a permanent seat for Germany and Japan came up, Italy got very upset and said, look, if you are talking of Germany and Japan getting the permanent seats, don't you forget that we also lost the war.